Well, we are kind of involved in the same project that we've been involved with for the last few videos here. When I left off with you in the last video, we were just starting to hook up these hydraulic hoses. And I've got two run down this side here. I've got to put a little paint on this bracket here that we put on here so that we could kind of protect the hoses and the wire harness from the hooks coming across when you fold the planter up. So like I was saying, we've got two hoses installed on this side, one on that side there. They are Power Beyond hoses, and they're going to supply hydraulic oil to the independent row hydraulic downforce and into the hydraulic driven fertilizer pump. Now we ran these hoses across and through to a valve body that gets mounted in under the hydraulic, or in under the fertilizer tank. I didn't think there was going to be enough room there, so we folded up the planter to make sure that was going to actually work right there. The bracket is bolted there. The valve body, however, is over here on my makeshift desk, if you want to call it that. This is the valve body here. I got as far as getting the fittings in there. There's more fittings that go into it, but I haven't come across that page yet. We're into the point now where we're going to be putting the hoses on the actual row units themselves. We've got the hoses hooked up coming off of the valve body here, going up to this bulkhead, but we've got to run hoses from this bulkhead to the valve body itself up in underneath the planter. I've got to find that page. The problem that we're having, the directions are all there, but they're kind of vague. I mean, they're really not vague, but there is a few variations of this planter that they have in the directions. They don't talk about working on a 16-row planter that has seed boxes on it. The couple models that they have in the directions, one is a 1795 planter, and the other one is a 1750. Or a 1770 rather, not a 1750, a 1770. This is a 1775. It's a little newer than the 1750 that is in the directions. However, both of the planters are CCS planters. There's a few more items on those two planters, and the serial numbers and whatever else like that, you really got to kind of watch what directions you're reading. So we're just kind of using the process of elimination to get down to the point where we can hook up the rest of this, and they have got me into working on the row units. So we're going to start putting those hoses on, and the camera just kicked off here, so I think I've got that file saved. So we're getting down to just a few hoses now, not a lot. So we will hook up the independent row units, or the row units themselves, and then hopefully I can kind of figure out from there what we have left to do. Sarah is out chisel plowing right now. Maybe we'll pay her a visit. She's chisel plowing with the 9560. And the other crew is hauling manure, and Alex is sick. So she ran after some parts here this morning, and she didn't feel like she was going to be in the shape to run the other chisel plow. So we're just going to keep at it here, and hopefully by the end of the day we've got a majority of everything all put together. All right, we have just pulled into the field that Sarah is chisel plowing in. She's got the short rounds done on this one side in behind us here. And she's just making a pass down across the middle of the field here. Now, This field here we injected manure on. It was probably all of 10 days ago. This is gravel ground, so it's early ground. And it looks like it is plowing up rather nice. So you might ask, you know, why are you doing all this plowing? Why don't you just no-till? Well, we have to take care of the compaction and the tracks that the spreader makes and what have you. So we chisel about everything. So this 9560 just plays with this chisel plow. This is a 19 shank Landau chisel plow. Now the way they make these chisel plows, this frame here is the same frame as a 17 shank. When you get up into, I think it's the 21, they will do a 21 and a 23 on the same frame. Our other one is a 13 shank, and that's the largest of that frame, and that frame doesn't fold. It travels down the road rather wide. This one here folds up. They do make a 15 shank chisel that folds, but it's pretty expensive compared to how big the plow is. This tractor would handle all of 23 shanks, but once we get into some hilly ground and some sticky ground, that 19 shank will put that tractor on its knees. Now a year ago, we had chisel plowed some ground, the first couple of days worth of ground, and we had run into some issues with the tractor losing a little bit of coolant, not clawing a little bit right there. I'm having a little trouble getting along with the truck here too, getting in and out of these spots where I'm traveling in the ruts that they're not the ruts, but the spots that the shanks, the chisel shanks, or the injector shanks had made here. So a year ago we ended up having some head gasket issues on this 9560 just rolling into spring work, and we ended up bringing it back to the shop. We had some what did we have to do? We had to replace the EGR cooler on it earlier on in the winter, and we hadn't used it up to then, and then once we got to chisel plowing ground, we realized that Sarah could smell coolant, and we got digging into it, and there was a couple of head gasket bolts that have a special O-ring around them that we had to replace. It was quite an involved job. Jake came over, and we got her fixed up, and we were running on pins and needles throughout last spring, wondering if we weren't going to have other issues with it as well. Pulling a little bit of a hill, it's clawing a little bit. We need some tires on this old girl, but we're going to go ahead and wait till next year to get tires on it. Now in a previous video we kind of talked about getting some auto steer systems. We're thinking of looking into some steering systems that aren't John Deere, and I need to do a little more research on that before we go ahead and pull the trigger. But we'll get down to the end of the field here. We'll jump in with Sarah and we'll get her thoughts on how everything is working here. It's looking like everything is plowing up rather nice. I gotta watch my back end of the truck here. We don't want to back into a telephone pole or something. So we'll get to the end of the field and then we'll go ahead and jump in with her. Well, we'll see if she allows us to jump in with her here. She didn't seem to mind yesterday when she was spreading. I'll let her get pulled up to the end here so that we're not stopping mid-motion. No, I didn't even have to tell her I want to ride. She's volunteering to stop here. Smell that fresh dirt, huh?
Yeah.
So, looks like things are plowing up pretty good here. So, let's move along.
Think I'm gonna hit this pole?
No, you ain't gonna hit that pole. You ain't gonna hit that pole. Clawing a little bit, but it's plenty dry, huh?
Yeah.
So I was just telling everybody here, all the viewers, you know, all the millions and millions of viewers that are watching us here. Last year on the first day of plowing, didn't go too good. Smelled a little bit of coolant.
Oh yeah.
And we said, oh boy, we better get looking into things here. And that's when we discovered that we had head gasket issues. Which it really wasn't. It wasn't a head gasket. What it was is a couple of head bolts that have a special O-ring. I don't know if it was sent from the factory that way, but it was more or less a upgraded part that they offered for these 13 5-liter Deere engines later on, and it took care of the problem. Plow's doing a real good job here. So what's your thoughts on auto steer? I've got some systems that I'm looking into. Think we ought to run the auto steer, or would you rather run the steering wheel?
I don't know. It depends.
It depends. Yeah, you was thinking you could sit back, you could actually do some videoing, you know? You get the auto steer going for you and run the camera. This field here, I don't know if I brought it up earlier on here when we started recording. This was herbicide resistant alfalfa. We had, at this point when we started planting, or when we started growing herbicide resistant alfalfa, this was what we had planted the second year that we had gotten into it. It did really well down here. Now you might be asking, what is herbicide resistant alfalfa? I'm going to say a very bad word, or a couple of words. It's Roundup Ready. Roundup Ready alfalfa. And it does really well. We have had really good luck with it. We've been growing it for about 6 years now, and that's basically all we grow. For hay, that is. And we have pretty good luck with it. So we're going to run up to the other end of the field. We're going to jump out and head back to the shop. So we're starting to hook up some hydraulic hoses going to the row units now. That job has been a little more fun. We're getting to the bottom of the pile of hoses that we have. So what would you rather do, spread manure or run the chisel plow, or work in the shop?
I like spreading manure.
You do?
Yeah.
Which tractor do you like better, the 9410 or the 9320?
I don't know. I like the 9320, but it rides rough.
Yeah, it is rough. We don't know what the heck it is with that tractor. Jared thought maybe that the cab mounts were getting real stiff, but I think it's actually the tires. We put a set of Michelin tires on it 5 or 6 years ago, and I think they've just gotten so damn hard that they don't ride that great. So We're spinning a little bit. You can see the tracks where I came down through with the truck. It was sinking into the spots that the shanks on the chisel plow made, or not the chisel plow, but the injector on the spreader. And there is still a fair amount of moist manure under the surface. So the only problem with it, that's the only problem with injecting manure. It leaves the ground a little wetter, a little longer, and I hate it when they have to get on plowing this ground when the manure is kind of wet, because it makes the tractor real dirty. So we don't want any dirty tractors, do we?
No.
So you might notice that she runs the discs down once in a while, and then she runs them up and then down. They really don't do much. They're supposed to cut a little furrow and kind of help the shanks roll the dirt over or penetrate the ground, but it is what it is. This is, there's not any real big stone in here, but you can kind of see that the ground is somewhat hard, and that's why she's going a little slower. There's quite a bit of action coming from them shanks there. Spring resets. I'm gonna get out up here, so. Yeah, let me out here. All right, well, take her easy. Don't break nothing. I don't want any phone calls. All right?